In this world, everyone transforms into the last animal they ate. Some people ate lamb skewers and turned into rats, some ate steak and became loaches, and others ate fossils and became dinosaurs. But you, uniquely, bit your own arm and transformed directly into a Chinese divine dragon. Because humanity has recklessly destroyed the environment, the Earth's will has issued a warning: in 24 hours, everyone will transform into the last animal they ate. And if you remember correctly, the last thing you ate was takeout fried chicken. As an animal at the bottom of the food chain, you would become a delicacy the moment the global bestialization began. Just as you were worrying, your good friend, Wang Qili, came looking for you. But in contrast to your anxiety, he was unusually excited. Because the Earth's will only said people would become the last animal they ate, it didn't specify that it had to be a modern animal. Wang Qili's family owns a construction company, and just a few days ago, they had unearthed a Tyrannosaurus rex fossil in a mountain village. If one could eat that, they would become a dominant, overlord-level existence. Elephants and Siberian tigers would be nothing more than your food. So, you and Wang Qili hatched a plan and immediately drove to the village. But unexpectedly, upon arriving at the destination, Boss Xia, who was guarding the T-Rex fossil, refused you on the spot. You see, everyone could hear the Earth's will, and Boss Xia was no exception. After learning about the global bestialization, he immediately had people secure the T-Rex fossil. At that moment, Boss Xia, with a cold smile, said that the T-Rex fossil was out of the question, but he had prepared something else good for you. After speaking, he had someone bring over a fish tank, which strikingly contained a green lizard. Then, you were locked in the woodshed. Looking at the boarded-up doors and windows, Wang Qili was instantly filled with despair. Fortunately, the last thing he had eaten last night was an alligator snapping turtle. Although it was still a turtle, an alligator snapping turtle could grow up to 200 kilograms and was outstanding in both defense and attack. When you opened the backpack you were carrying, you found only a packet of instant noodles and a ham sausage inside. If you chose the seasoning packet, you could become a cow. If you chose the ham sausage, you could become a pig. But both were low combat existences. However, you felt fortunate that you could at least ride your friend's coattails. But on second thought, humans are also a type of animal. What would you become if you ate yourself? In any case, the worst outcome would be better than turning into a cow or a pig. So, in the final second before the global animal transformation, you bit down hard on your own arm. Then, the Earth's will caused all humans to fall into a coma. Their bodies began to twist and change, reshaping into various animals. However, it was worth noting that they didn't directly transform into adult forms. Instead, they all became the juvenile forms of the animals. Only through constant consumption could they evolve. When your good brother Wang Qili woke up again, he had indeed turned into an alligator snapping turtle. He looked left and right, but couldn't find you anywhere. It wasn't until he turned his head that he noticed an egg the size of a head behind him. Faint patterns could be seen on the egg, a story, and light within. At the same time, you were also dumbfounded. You didn't expect that just biting yourself would turn you into a dragon egg. However, even as an egg, you could still see the outside world clearly, with a 360-degree view. Just as you were still in shock, you heard the system's voice: "Congratulations to the host for becoming a dragon, officially unlocking the Chinese dragon system. Currently in the incubation period, which will last 10,000 years. Seeing this, you chuckled. As expected of a descendant of the dragon, with true dragon blood flowing through your veins. Although incubation will take 10,000 years, it can be shortened by constantly hunting. At the same time, you also gain 2 talent skills. The first is Heavenly Thunder Protection, which can summon divine punishment thunder, causing large-scale damage, and the second is Dragon's Might, because the dragon race is born with supreme pressure, which has a suppressing effect on most creatures. At this moment, your good brother Wang Qili asked in shock what you had eaten. In order not to cause unnecessary trouble, you lied and said that you had actually eaten an ostrich egg last night. Just as the two of you were talking, a roar came from outside the door. As the door of the farmhouse was kicked open, a ferocious beast stuck its head in from the outside. That's right, it was Boss Xia, who had turned into a Tyrannosaurus rex. Although he was also a juvenile, he was already the height of an adult. At this time, he shouted, "Wang Chili, I've long been unhappy with your rich parents. Today, I'm going to drink turtle soup to replenish my body." Then the group of villagers who had turned into dogs surrounded him. Although they were numerous and powerful, when they saw the turtle shell full of spikes and the ferocious head of the snapping turtle, they dared not step forward for a while. However, under Boss Xia's tyranny, a larger dog rushed up. Seeing this, Wang Chili immediately attacked, biting at the other party. With a scream of "ah," half of the villagers' nose was immediately bitten off. You should know that the bite force of an alligator snapping turtle can reach an astonishing 450 kilograms. Boss Xia was extremely angry at this time. These subordinates couldn't even beat a turtle, which made him lose face. So he directly swallowed the injured dog, then roared to the sky, and decided to charge himself. Such a bloody scene made the surrounding villagers tremble with their tails between their legs, and Wang Chili was no better off. It seems that at this critical moment, you need to take action. You immediately calmed down and began to feel the rules between heaven and earth. At this moment, in the sky above the village, the originally clear weather suddenly became cloudy. Just as Boss Xia crouched down to bite Wang Chili, you shouted, "Heavenly lightning, protect me." Suddenly, a bolt of lightning flashed across the dark, overcast sky. Countless animals were struck on the spot, falling dead to the ground. However, you and Wang Chili, standing in the center of the courtyard, were enveloped by the draconic aura and remained completely unharmed. But Boss Xia wasn't so lucky. With an agonizing scream, his flesh and skin exploded. His hind limbs, which had looked incredibly robust moments before, were now blasted to pieces, and his white brain matter splattered all over the ground. Congratulations, host, for hunting 25 field mice, earning 25 evolution points for hunting one ancient Tyrannosaurus, earning 100 evolution points. You never expected the heavenly lightning ability to be so powerful. You had assumed it was a single target attack, but it turned out to be an area of effect skill, and its ridiculous power far exceeded your expectations. If you could keep this pace, you could definitely hatch within a year. Because this was your first kill, the system also rewarded you with one spin on the talent wheel. After a quick spin, the pointer landed on a talent called Dragon's Fury. Although you didn't know what this skill did, judging by its spiritual energy consumption and its awesome name, it couldn't be too bad. Originally, you planned to take Wang Chili and find a deserted place to lie low, waiting until you hatched before coming out to dominate. But now, it seemed you had to change your plan. You would kill anything that came your way. So, with you on his back, Wang Chili started walking toward the edge of the village. However, just as you were passing a patch of grass, a palm-sized mouse suddenly scurried out, seemingly foraging for food in the night. Seeking to evolve, Wang Chili lunged forward, opened his mouth wide, and swallowed it whole. An evolution point then appeared in Wang Chili's mind, which could be used to enhance his evolutionary genes. This made Wang Chili incredibly excited. If he hadn't been turned into a turtle, he would have broken into a celebratory dance right then and there. Following your analysis, Wang Chili added the evolution point to his defense. Alligator snapping turtles already have an extremely strong bite force, so there was no need to evolve that. When the cataclysm arrived, a juvenile turtle's shell wouldn't be very hard, so defense was the best choice. The moment the evolution point was spent, a cracking sound came from the shell, which then visibly grew thicker and more solid. Then, the two of you continued on your journey. After 3 days of crossing mountains and ridges, you finally saw the neon lights of a city once again. You had thought that after humans turned into animals, such things would vanish like smoke, but they still existed, as if a continuation of human civilization. But just as you reached the city gates, a pack of vicious dogs blocked your path. Seeing this, Wang Chili immediately opened his mouth wide in an attempt to intimidate these uninvited guests. Fortunately, this pack of vicious dogs wasn't hungry. After a brief conversation, you learned they were from the vicious dog gang. While Wang Chili was negotiating with them, you sized up this pack of vicious dogs. They all seem to have reached their growth stage. As expected, it's easier to evolve in the city, given its large population. At this point, the vicious dog gang demanded a protection fee for entry. It turned out that on the second day of the global animalization, someone had surprisingly discovered that evolution points could be directly gifted to others. This meant that besides killing, one could also make others obediently hand them over. However, the main source of evolution points was still through killing. The exception was herbivores, which gained evolution points by eating grass. As a result, large numbers of herbivores were kept in captivity by carnivores, their points constantly exploited from them day after day. To avoid unnecessary trouble, you ultimately paid 8 evolution points and were finally allowed in. But you had already made up your mind. Once inside the vicious dog gang's territory, you would find an opportunity to lure this entire pack of dogs near you and send them straight to oblivion with a heavenly thunder bodyguard. After entering the city, you looked at the scene before you in utter disbelief, as if you had returned to the time before the animalization. Although it couldn't be described as perfectly orderly, it wasn't a chaotic mess either. All sorts of animals were on the streets, including many vicious dogs patrolling everywhere. They seemed to have transformed into law enforcers, maintaining order in the city. Just as you were still in shock, a pure white rabbit suddenly hopped next to Wang Qili, scaring him so much that he almost retreated back into his turtle shell. This rabbit was named Xia Qingqing. Seeing that it was your first time in the city, he wanted to come over and help you. However, his cunning gaze did not escape your perception. But you didn't expose him, wanting to see what he was really up to. And so, at Xia Qingqing's enthusiastic invitation, you headed towards his home. But gradually, Wang Qili noticed something was off. You were getting farther and farther from the city center. Xia Qingqing explained that herbivores like them didn't have much of a voice, so they lived in more remote areas. Following her lead, you eventually arrived at a dilapidated rental house. Xia Qingqing's parents were very welcoming and quickly prepared dinner. Arranged on plates was some green grass. For Wang Qili, there was a piece of pork. As for you, you were completely ignored. However, as time went on, Wang Qili's eyelids grew heavier and heavier, and he eventually passed out. It turned out the pork had been tampered with, all to lure Wang Qili into a trap. Their goal, naturally, was to hand you over to the vicious dog gang, which would grant them the right to leave the city and gain their freedom. However, you had witnessed this whole scene. It was a case of finding something effortlessly after a long and fruitless search. Once you reached the vicious dog gang's main base, a single Heavenly Thunder bodyguard would be enough to wipe them all out. Soon, Xia Qingqing brought you before Black Dog King, the leader of the evil dog gang. Through your consciousness observation, you discovered that he was a cane corso. Although he was still growing, he was actually larger than a fully grown cane corso. Black Dog King, named Wang Ling, was originally a professional boxer. Due to injuries sustained while boxing, he was hospitalized and had no choice but to acquire a cane corso nearby. Then, after the animalization descended, a miracle occurred. All the various wounds he had sustained immediately healed completely. Although he turned into a dog, fortunately, it was a cane corso. Relying on his combat awareness, he easily defeated all his enemies and eventually became the Black Dog King. At this moment, he licked his lips. He had clearly already eaten dinner, but after seeing this egg, he always felt like he could eat something more. So, he eagerly opened his mouth, ready to devour it directly. However, the next second, an extremely strong aura erupted from the egg, and Black Dog King was instantly pressed to the ground by this pressure. Then, your voice rang out like a bell, kowtow to the most shameless creature. With just a few words, Black Dog King suffered internal injuries, and the bones in his body made crackling sounds. At this moment, the underlings outside who heard the screams had just approached when they were directly pressed to the ground by the dragon's might. Then, you spoke again, ordering Black Dog King to summon all of his subordinates. And worthy of being the leader of the evil dog gang, he actually mustered a trace of rebellious faith with his own will. But you immediately stopped holding back, and the full force of the dragon's might was released again. This immediately made Black Dog King dare not struggle any further, because he felt that his will was about to collapse. Only when all the members of the evil dog gang arrived did you stop releasing the dragon's might, and Black Dog King was like a deflated balloon, obviously exhausted. At this time, he asked you with a terrified look what you wanted from them. Originally, you intended to destroy them, but you changed your mind on a whim. The reason why the evil dog gang was able to evolve so remarkably in just a few days was because of the help of a group of herbivores, allowing them to endlessly harvest leeks. You could similarly make them offer all their evolution points to you. In this way, your hatching speed would definitely increase significantly. So you gave them a choice, either submit to you or be sent to the Western Paradise. After witnessing your terrifying strength, they chose to submit without hesitation, and Black Dog King even handed over all of his remaining evolution points to you. This instantly reduced your hatching time from 10,000 years to 9,890 years. Due to the first time using the evolution point acceleration system, you were rewarded with another talent roulette spin. So you drew a talent called Spiritual Chi Circulation, which allows you to generate 100 points of spiritual chi per day through the dragon eggs breathing. In other words, you could now completely stay away from the city. You would only need to wait 2 or 3 years to successfully incubate, and there would be no risks whatsoever. But in this era, the state of the world changes in a flash every single day. You can't possibly wait that long. Afterward, you officially rename the Vicious Dog Gang to the Dragon Dynasty, while the Black Dog King remains in full charge of all its affairs. Hearing this, the Black Dog King's eyes lit up once again. Your gesture completely won him over, and he immediately started calling you boss on the spot. It was only then, through the Black Dog King's account, that you fully understood the city's specific situation. It turned out that Haishang City was currently divided into 3 factions. The Dragon Dynasty, which you led, was one of them. The other 2 were the Cat Gang, led by the Melly Cat, and the Rat Gang, led by the Rat King. This left you a bit speechless. There were actually people who would eat rats. But that Rat King fellow was ruthless. You see, on the eve of the animalization, everyone was looking for larger animals. He, however, chose a rat, simply because throughout the long river of history, rats had managed to live quite well in all sorts of extremely harsh environments. Therefore, in the final second before the animalization, he swallowed the rat, fighting back his disgust. So, as soon as he transformed, he immediately led his swarm of rats to quickly occupy the city's entire sewer system. However, just as you were all agonizing over the problem of how to eliminate the Cat Gang and the Rat Gang, the former Vicious Dog Gang's military advisor stepped forward. It turned out to be a husky. And its plan was quite simple: lure the cats and rats to a hidden location and then burn them to death. Looking at the husky, which had an air of profound mystery, you immediately pointed out the plan's flaw: how to lure them into the trap. Without a big enough bait, this plan was just empty talk on paper, completely useless. But on second thought, when it came to attractive bait, what could be more appealing than yourself? So, to test this, you stopped hiding your aura. In an instant, you emitted a dazzling glow, causing the surrounding dogs to drool with desire. Isn't this ready-made bait? However, just as you were discussing the next steps of the plan, your good brother, Wang Qili, was brought in by your subordinates. It turned out that when Wang Qili woke up this morning, he discovered you were gone from his back. Anxious, he immediately surrounded the rabbit family. Only after forcing a confession did he learn that you had been taken to the Vicious Dog Gang. This instantly filled Wang Qili with immense self-blame. If it weren't for his gluttony, this would never have happened. Then, under his threats, Xia Qingqing led him here. The moment he saw you, he ran over excitedly, yet at the same time, he was extremely shocked. How did you, in the form of an egg, become the leader of the Vicious Dog Gang? But thinking back to the heavenly lightning from last time, he seemed to understand something. And you were extremely happy with Wang Qili's actions, because this is what a true brother does. Even knowing the Vicious Dog Gang was full of danger, he still came looking for you. After you briefly explained the situation to Wang Qili, he immediately clamored for you to just strike them with lightning, his ego swelling to the extreme. However, you just grinned and said you had a better plan. The Heavenly Thunder Bodyguard also consumes spiritual energy. Soon, the third day arrived, and sensational news suddenly spread through the city. The boss of the Vicious Dog Gang had obtained a glowing egg. This egg was iridescent all over and looked nothing like an object from the mortal world. Many people speculated that it was very likely a dragon egg, and that any ordinary animal who ate it could gain a dragon's bloodline. When this news got out, it caused a complete uproar throughout the city. For a time, various factions grew restless and began to take action. At this moment, outside a dilapidated warehouse, A dozen or so dogs were pacing and patrolling inside, using their keen sense of smell to stay alert for any suspicious animals that might appear at any moment. And in the sewer beneath their feet, a bunch of stupid dogs. We're rats, what's the use of them guarding the ground? A completely gray rat sneered with contempt. By now, about 10 rats had gathered in the sewer. They were the advance team sent by the Rat King to scout out whether the information was accurate. After all, rats are timid by nature, so they were terrified this might be a trap. Those stupid dogs probably have no idea that there's a pipe leading directly into the warehouse. Ha ha ha. Let's go. The lead rat led his squad and crawled into the warehouse pipe. Through the pipe, they quickly and smoothly bypassed the dogs outside, successfully entering the warehouse. Brother Wang. Quick, look. It really is a glowing egg. And it even has scales on it. No doubt about it. The dragon eggs I've read about in books look just like this. It has to be one. Hearing this, the rat known as Brother Wang immediately looked toward the egg in the warehouse. For a moment, his jaw almost dropped in shock. There, on a tabletop not far in front of them, an egg that glowed all over lay quietly, perfectly still. The originally pitch-black warehouse became much brighter, illuminated by the eggshell's glow. Moreover, the moment they saw the egg, all the rats present desperately wanted to rush forward and take a huge bite out of it. It was just too appetizing. In the end, it was their human consciousness that allowed them to control the impulse and not lose their reason. Could it be an ambush? Brother Wang asked cautiously. After speaking, he paused for a moment and then looked at the group of underling rats beside him. You, go down and check it out. If you sense danger, run back to us immediately. He casually pointed at a rat and spoke again. Me? No, please, Brother Wang. Hearing this, the face of the rat he pointed to immediately fell, and it pleaded for mercy with a mournful expression. Cut the crap. If you don't follow my orders, aren't you afraid the Rat King will tear your throat out when we get back? Brother Wang snarled in a low voice. I was wrong, Brother Wang. I'll go right now. At the mere mention of the Rat King, all the rats present reacted as if they had heard something terrifying and couldn't help but tremble where they stood. And the rat Brother Wang had pointed at, as if resigned to its fate, leaped down from the water pipe and landed directly on the warehouse floor. It crept cautiously towards Xiaolong's position, circling the table and examining it carefully a few times. After that, it meticulously checked every corner of the warehouse. Only after confirming there was truly no danger did it finally breathe a sigh of relief. Brother Wang. It's clear down here. You guys can. The little rat shouted loudly toward the pipe. But before it could finish, the rats in the pipe leaped down one after another, landing in front of it and clamping its mouth shut. Keep your voice down. If you attract the attention of those dogs outside, we're all done for. Brother Wang ordered in a low, stern voice. He then tossed the little rat aside and personally spent a long time carefully examining the table with the egg on it before leading the group of rats back into the pipe. At that moment, from within the fish tank, Xiaolong sensed the group of rats completely disappear from his range of perception, and only then did he let out a soft sigh. The fish have finally taken the bait. All of you, come in. The next phase of the plan is... Xiaolong's incomparably majestic voice slowly emanated from the eggshell. Meanwhile, after leaving the warehouse area, Brother Wang led his rat subordinates straight for the city's sewers. This was the receptacle for all the city's filth, reeking of a nauseating stench from every corner. So, this mysterious message is real then? On a mountain of garbage, a rat several sizes larger than a common bamboo rat lay, staring intently at Brother Wang's newly returned group. For some reason, ever since they had turned into rats, they no longer felt any aversion to this filthy garbage that ordinary people would steer clear of. On the contrary, letting the foul stench of the garbage saturate their bodies actually made them feel unusually comfortable. As if this was how things were always meant to be. Yes, boss. The egg really was glowing continuously, and it has scales on it. It's exactly like the dragon eggs from the legends. Whether it's real or not, it's definitely a treasure. There's no mistake in snatching it. Brother Wang stepped forward to report. But why would something like this suddenly appear? Dinosaurs went extinct long ago. How could a dragon egg possibly still exist? The Rat King asked, puzzled. After hearing dragon egg, he naturally assumed it was a dinosaur egg, not even considering the possibility of a divine dragon's egg. After all, dinosaurs had actually existed on Earth. As for divine dragons, those were creatures that existed only in ethereal myths, with not a single trace of them ever appearing in reality. Hearing this, Brother Wang stepped forward and began to explain. Boss, at this point, nothing is impossible anymore. After all, something as incredible as global animalization has already happened. Compared to that, the appearance of some prehistoric creatures is nothing. He paused, as if hesitating about something, but finally made up his mind and spoke. Our faction is the weakest in the city right now, so it's better to believe it than not. Otherwise, once the other factions in the city grow stronger, there will be no place left for us in Jiangxia City. After Brother Wang finished speaking, he said no more. In an instant, the once raucous rat stronghold fell silent. The numerous rats seemed to have all fallen into deep thought. The atmosphere suddenly became very oppressive. And the Rat King on the garbage heap furrowed his brow, as if remembering something that irritated him. He vaguely remembered that on the second day after the animalization began, he had led a massive number of rats and was unstoppable throughout the city. Jiangxia City had almost completely become their domain. But what they hadn't expected was that all the animals on the surface would actually unite against them. Although they were numerous, their combat strength was no match for the cats and dogs. They could more than handle a single faction alone, but when all the others united, they were simply no match. In the end, they were forced to retreat into these sunless sewers to eke out a miserable existence. Life was truly unbearable. But even so, the animals on the surface refused to let them be, constantly on guard against them at all times. Makes sense. The Rat King on the garbage heap suddenly shouted, his sharp, piercing voice making all the rats jump in fright. His name was Mickey, and he had originally been just an ordinary office worker. Having considered himself extraordinary since childhood, on the eve of the animalization, he didn't want to be like the common masses and choose one of the ubiquitous cats or dogs. He wanted a more special creature to prove that he was different from everyone else. And so, Mickey suddenly thought of an animal, the rat. Although their combat strength was inferior to cats and dogs, their survival ability was far superior. You see, rats can survive in all kinds of extremely harsh environments, something those pampered pet cats and dogs could never compare to. The post-animalization world was just one big survival hunting game. As long as you could survive until the end, it was anyone's guess who the winner would be. So, he resolutely chose the rat, forcing himself to stomach the rat from his mousetrap, fighting back his disgust. Now, it seemed his choice had been absolutely correct. After the advent of animalization, they quickly occupied the city's entire sewer system and also seized most of the territory above ground. If they hadn't united, the ruler of this entire city would be him now. Boss. What's your plan? We'll all follow your lead. That's right. Just give the order, boss. Counterattack the surface. Rule the city. After Brother Wang's speech, the rats' morale soared, and they all eagerly awaited the Rat King's command. They had been holding back for far too long and were sick of being pushed around by the animals on the surface. In that case, let's go all in and risk it all. Mickey slowly opened his crimson eyes, a human-like flash of ruthlessness crossing his face. Then, boss, what about the cat boss? Brother Wang stepped forward and asked. As the natural enemies of rats, the two sides were originally irreconcilable. But the vicious dog gang's power had grown too quickly. They were already on the verge of dominating the entire city. Watching his territory being constantly encroached upon, the cat boss couldn't sit still any longer. So, he sought out the Rat King, and the two sides actually formed a temporary alliance. This seemingly impossible event had actually occurred. After all, they were all transformed from humans and hadn't fully developed yet, so they could still temporarily suppress their natural instincts. Tell those stupid cats the news as well. Let them join the operation.
After all, we are partners, at least in name. Good things should naturally be shared. You go pass on a message first. Ask the cat boss to meet us at the old spot tonight to discuss the plan in detail. The Rat King and Brother Wang exchanged a look and smiled, their faces showing the glee of conspirators. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city. This place was originally a palace-style theme park, but now a large number of cats had gathered here. In the center of the magnificent palace, a large, striped cat was lying on a dragon throne, resting with its eyes closed. It was a burly tabby cat, its body already rivaling the size of a large dog. They say tabby cats are the little tigers of the feline world. For a tabby of his size, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to call him a tiger among cats. It had to be said, this cat boss really knew how to live in luxury. After the advent of animalization, he had taken over this place and made it his headquarters. Beside him lay an alligator snapping turtle covered in spikes, none other than Xiaolong's sworn brother, Wang Qili. Why haven't those stinking rats sent a message yet? Are they planning to go after the loot themselves instead of working with us? The cat boss said with extreme impatience. Don't be anxious, Chief. Those rats can't possibly pull off anything big on their own. In the end, they'll have to rely on us. Let's just wait a bit longer, hee. Wang Qili said, calm and composed. That's right. The rumor that had suddenly spread throughout the city was his doing. Thanks to his extreme social skills and big mouth, within just one day, almost everyone in the city knew about the dragon egg. And he successfully infiltrated the cat's inner circle, becoming the strategist by the cat boss's side. As a former bookworm, he had already read countless plots like this, so putting it into practice was quite easy. Humph. That's true. I doubt they have the ability anyway. The cat boss said nonchalantly, stroking his whiskers after speaking, looking quite at ease. As cats, they were the natural enemies of mice. If they hadn't been in their early growth stages at the beginning, they wouldn't have been afraid of that pack of mice at all. Now, almost a week had passed since the animalization began, and both sides had seen a qualitative improvement in their strength. This innate predator-prey relationship gradually widened the gap in their power. Although they were still at an absolute disadvantage in terms of numbers, if they were to face that pack of mice now, it was truly uncertain who would come out on top. It was precisely because of this that he dared to form an alliance with the mice. After all, since he held a firm advantage over them, wouldn't they be his to command when the time came? Meow. Just as the two were talking, a cat's shriek suddenly came from outside. Immediately after, an orange cat walked straight in. Meow. Look here, boss. I was wondering why I suddenly smelled the stench of a dirty rat. Turns out we have a distinguished guest. At this moment, the orange cat was holding a gray mouse in its mouth, and it was none other than Brother Wang, who had come to deliver a message. Let me go. You stupid cat. I'm here to deliver the boss's orders. Brother Wang shouted, flushed with anger and embarrassment. Originally, he had wanted to bite this cat's neck open, but for the sake of the bigger picture, he held back. As the Rat King's capable right-hand man, his strength was actually no less than that of this ordinary orange cat. Having entered his growth period, he had already mastered a special skill. He could make his body grow larger or smaller by contracting his bones and muscles. At his largest, he could be about the size of an adult cat. And it wasn't just him, almost all the humans who had turned into mice would master this ability after entering their growth period. As for Mickey, the Rat King, he was even more extraordinary. His enlarged form could already rival the size of the cat boss before them. It seemed they had undergone some kind of mutation from using too many evolution points. But this skill was very draining, and he wouldn't use it unless absolutely necessary. After all, a little impatience can spoil a great plan. Let him go. The Cat King's lazy voice drifted over. The orange cat immediately released Brother Wang and wiped its mouth with great disdain. You little mouse really aren't afraid of death, are you? It's always you who comes to deliver messages. The cat boss slowly opened his eyes, and his dark, vertical pupils emitted a chilling, soul-stirring glint. He. Cat boss, I can't help it either. I'm the most familiar with this area, so naturally, the boss always sends me.
Wango grinned, walked over to the high-grade cat food placed to the side, picked it up, and started munching on it as if he were in his own home. The constant crunching sound made the other cats nearby itch to pounce and tear him to shreds.
Is it good? The cat boss licked his paw, his eyes narrowed as he spoke.
Wango said after savoring it.
Not bad, high-grade cat food indeed. Ha ha!
The corner of the cat boss's mouth twitched a few times, but he ultimately suppressed the anger in his heart and spoke again.
Speak. What's the situation at the warehouse? What's that guy Mickey planning this time? Don't be so hasty. Let me tell you slowly.
As Wango mumbled, he frantically stuffed cat food into his mouth and hands never pausing for a moment. Then, Wango told the cat boss everything about how he had led a team to investigate the warehouse.
Oh? A glowing egg. Quite a novelty.
Thanks to Wang Chi's immediate shenanigans, the cat boss's side was practically the first in the whole city to know about this. However, dogs have extremely sensitive noses, especially when it comes to cats, so they couldn't rashly go and investigate the truth of the matter.
Thus, the cat boss thought of the rats.
This group of rats, skilled at scurrying through all sorts of nooks and crannies of the city and being very small in size, was perfectly suited for gathering information. The boss said, if you're interested, meet him at the old spot tonight to discuss the detailed plan.
I'm just here to deliver the message.
Wango leaned against a nearby cat food bowl, the chewing motion of his mouth still not stopping.
A bunch of rats, after all. They don't even dare to come to my Cat King city and let me show them some proper hospitality.
The cat boss rolled his eyes and said with some disdain. Hearing this, Wango just glanced up at him, not angered, and simply continued to act as if nothing was wrong, munching on the cat food and waiting for him to continue.
Are you kidding me?
If all of them rats really came here, wouldn't that be like lambs walking into a tiger's den? Unless there was something wrong with their brains, they would never do something so foolish. On the other hand, the cat boss's side was too large to fit into the sewers, and they also despised the environment there. So, every time the two bosses met, they chose a place acceptable to both parties.
Only then could they talk with peace of mind. All right. Hurry back and pass on the message.
Seeing that his attempt to provoke him was useless, the cat boss felt a bit frustrated and snapped out of shame and anger.
Go tell him I'm very interested in this egg. I agree to this cooperation. Tonight at 8, at the old spot. Be there or be square.
Watching Wango scurry out of the palace in a flash, the cat boss couldn't help but frown deeply.
You too. Go throw out all the cat food that stinking rat just ate. And throw away this cat food bowl too.
The cat boss said with great disdain. He had almost lost control and torn Brother Wang to shreds just now.
That was his favorite cat food bowl. Boss, are you really going to cooperate with this pack of rats? Wang Chili's face showed a very worried expression as he spoke with some trepidation. What's there to be afraid of? Everything is under my control. After I clean up those stupid dogs, it'll be the turn of these stinking rats. Just you wait.
The cat boss's tone was extremely dismissive, as if he already had everything under control.
The boss is mighty. The assembled cats in the hall immediately chimed in with loud agreement.
Wang Chili also chimed in, but deep down, he couldn't stop himself from laughing.
This was the exact effect he wanted.
His impromptu performance these past 2 days really wasn't in vain.
Xiaolong, this is all I can do to help you. The rest is up to you guys. Meanwhile, back in that dilapidated warehouse. Host, Xiaolong. Bloodline, Dragon God Divine. Incubation period time, 9,780 years. Evolution points, 265. Spiritual energy, 372. Innate skills, active heavenly thunder aegis, dragon's wrath passive dragon's might, spiritual energy circulation. Attack, 0. Defense, 100. Speed, 0.
Although he had remained in the warehouse these past few days, Wang Lin still came by personally every day to hand over the collected evolution points. Of course, he didn't take everything, he just split it 80-20 with them. These guys also needed to improve their strength, or they wouldn't be able to hold down such a large territory. And it wasn't just him, but also the former members of the vicious dog gang and the herbivores they had been raising. Under Xiaolong's instruction, besides handing over most of their evolution points each day, they were now allowed to keep a small portion to enhance their own strength. A win-win for everyone was what Xiaolong wanted. In any case, as long as things were managed properly, the herbivores would basically have no chance to turn the tables. Besides, herbivores that reached their growth stage could generate more evolution points per day than juveniles, so why not? Boss, I'm here. As Xiaolong was deep in thought, Wang Lin's voice suddenly came from the doorway. Those guys are definitely going to make a move in the next couple of days. Are you all prepared? Wang Lin was, on the surface, still the boss of the vicious dog gang. He would surely be a primary target for the cats and rats, so he couldn't afford to drop the ball. Don't worry, boss. It's all taken care of. Oh, right. These are the evolution points collected today. Take them. Wang Lin nodded in response and handed the evolution points to Xiaolong after he finished speaking. Huh? Why are there so many? Xiaolong asked, a little puzzled. For the past 2 days, he had allowed the animals to keep some evolution points for themselves, so logically, the amount collected should have been less than before. But the amount he received today was actually double what it was yesterday. Ha. You probably don't know yet, boss. Let me explain. Wang Lin stood before Xiaolong and calmly explained the situation. It turned out that after Wang Lin announced the new rules, many herbivores from other factions' territories had secretly defected to their dragon's nest. They had suffered endless oppression in the other factions' territories, but in the dragon's nest, they could keep some of their evolution points. Who could resist such a temptation? Although they were still being exploited, at least there was a glimmer of hope, wasn't there? So, lured by this temptation, the number of herbivores in their dragon's nest territory had increased by an untold amount. With more animals, the evolution points naturally came rolling in. So that's how it is. That's not bad at all. After pondering for a moment, Xiaolong spoke again. Do this, starting tomorrow, aside from having them turn in their evolution points daily, don't restrict their movements within our territory anymore. As long as they turn in their evolution points on time every day, just let them roam freely. Previously, the herbivores of the vicious dog gang had mostly been kept penned up in a specific area. Their living space was extremely limited. But with this order from Xiaolong, they could now move about freely without restriction. Letting the animals live as freely as possible each day would prevent them from developing a rebellious spirit. And Xiaolong would be able to collect evolution points for a much longer time. Understood, boss. I'll go give the orders right away. This way, we'll definitely be able to attract even more herbivores. Wang Lin understood Xiaolong's intentions almost instantly and couldn't help but say excitedly. This boss of his was truly in a different league from that Han Shiqi. But there's one thing you need to pay attention to. Xiaolong's imposing voice rang out again, making Wang Lin shudder. If you encounter any troublemakers, you still need to be ruthless. It's necessary to occasionally single out one or two of the thorny ones and make an example of them. Beyond that, arrange for our members to protect their safety as much as possible. Don't let animals from other territories bully them. Yes, boss. Watching Wang Lin walk out of the warehouse, Xiaolong, still inside his eggshell, couldn't help but sigh. For the past 2 days, he had been feeling a constant sense of unease. He didn't know if it was his imagination or something else, but he had a persistent feeling that the world was about to undergo another tremendous change. This change would perhaps alter Xiaolong's life once again. This world, it seemed, was growing increasingly unstable due to the advent of animalization. That was why he was increasingly desperate to hatch quickly, to obtain great power to cope with any and all uncertainties. I hope it's just my imagination. He glanced at the evolution points Wang Lin had just handed over, a full 20,000 plus points. Xiaolong, without the slightest hesitation, converted them into 2,000 points of spirit energy. Of that, he directly used 1,000 points to speed up the incubation process. This brought him even closer to his hatching time. As for the remaining 1,000 spirit energy points, system, lottery draw. He decisively chose the lottery draw. After all, besides hatching, talents were currently his only way to increase his strength. Ding! The talent roulette is starting up. The roulette wheel that suddenly appeared before him began to spin immediately after an ethereal voice sounded, finally coming to a slow stop on one of its segments. Congratulations, host, for completing the talent draw. You have obtained a new talent Dragon Soul contract. Dragon Soul contract. The host can activate the Dragon Soul contract to form a master-servant pact with a creature of a lower bloodline tier. The contracted party will never be able to escape the host's control. P.S. Activation costs 500 spirit energy points. Seeing the newly acquired talent, Xiaolong almost couldn't help but cry out in excitement. Holy crap! Just what I needed. A master-servant contract. Wasn't this exactly the skill he needed right now? Although he possessed various powerful skills, he was, alas, just an egg. His mobility was simply terrible. Before he could successfully hatch, he had to build a trustworthy organization to maximize his advantages. Currently, besides that fellow Wang Qili, whom he could trust, he couldn't fully trust any of the other dogs from the former vicious dog gang. After all, they had only temporarily submitted to Xiaolong's oppressive might. Xiaolong believed that the moment something went wrong, they would betray him without a second thought. This newly acquired talent undoubtedly solved his most pressing problem. Although the spirit energy cost to use it was exorbitant, it was extremely practical. The dark curtain of night gradually fell over the city, but its neon lights did not flicker to life. Over the past few days, the city's stored electricity reserves had been completely depleted. With the advent of the animalization, the power grid had completely collapsed without humans to maintain it. Fortunately, there were still many solar-powered lights throughout the city, preventing the nights from becoming completely pitch black. In a pitch-black factory, over a dozen pairs of eerie green eyes flickered unceasingly. A group of cats stood in a line, quietly waiting for something. Meow. Why aren't those damned rats here yet? It's past the time. The lead cat's claws scraped restlessly against the ground, making a harsh, grating sound. Beside them, Wang Qili, who had long since retracted his head into his shell, was shivering uncontrollably. He already regretted coming along with this band of cats. Because of the power outage, the entire factory was now pitch black, and he couldn't see a thing. He didn't have night vision like these cats did. But it couldn't be helped. For the sake of Xiaolong's plan, he had endured his fear and come along. Squeak! Squeak, squeak! Suddenly, several sharp cries echoed from all around, shattering the silence of the factory building. The cats all arched their backs, instantly on high alert as if facing a great enemy. Meow! You stinking rats! Stop your spooky act! Get out here! The cat boss shrieked, looking toward a corner of the factory. Ha ha ha! Cat boss, long time no see. From behind a massive machine, several rats scurried out. At the head of the group were none other than the Rat King Mickey and brother Wang, whom they had just met that afternoon. Humph! Such theatrics! The cat boss snorted coldly, speaking with extreme displeasure. Don't be like that. It's just turned 8. Can't you be a little patient? Cut the crap. Let's get down to business. Seeing Mickey about to ramble on, the cat boss interrupted impatiently. He didn't want to spend another second with this bunch of stinking rats. If it weren't for dealing with those stupid dogs, he would have pounced and torn them to shreds long ago. Hee hee, cat boss, you're still so impatient. All right then. Mickey shook his head with a hint of resignation and stood opposite the cat boss. After a pause, he grinned and said, My plan is simple. We have more numbers, so we'll just rush over and take it by force. They definitely can't beat us, right, cat boss? After Mickey finished speaking, brother Wang and the other rat underlings behind him burst into laughter, some even rolling on the ground.
Enough! Is this your plan? Mickey's joke finally made the cat boss lose his patience. He raised his paw and swiped at Mickey before him. Swish! The massive cat paw, carrying a piercing whoosh, smashed down hard toward Mickey's head. It looked as if Mickey was about to be flattened into a meat patty. In a flash, Mickey dodged with an incredibly swift leap, landing unharmed on the ground not far away. Where he had been standing, several deep, shocking claw marks were visible. Meow! Squeak! Squeak! Seeing their respective bosses come to blows right after meeting, the underlings on both sides couldn't stand it. They all gathered around their bosses, glaring furiously at the other side. The air filled with an indescribable smell of gunpowder. The atmosphere between the two groups instantly grew tense, as if a full-blown war could erupt at any moment. What are you all doing? Can't you see the two bosses are just sparring? At the critical moment, it was Wang Chili at the side who spoke first, breaking the heavy atmosphere. However, his words, aside from earning angry glares from the opposing rats, had no effect whatsoever. Seeing this, he had no choice but to slowly walk up to the cat boss and whisper in his ear, "Boss, just bear with it for now. After we get rid of those stupid dogs, they're next." Hearing this, the cat boss frowned, seemingly trying his best to suppress his anger. Who? After a long internal struggle, the cat boss finally took a deep breath. The strategist is right. You lot, get back in line, you blind fools. Hearing cat boss's words, the cats returned to their original positions, but remained highly vigilant. Mickey on the opposite side glanced at Wang Chili subtly, a strange meaning flashing in his scarlet eyes. Cat boss, you're quite skilled. You've gotten stronger again in just a few days. Mickey waved his hand at Brother Wang behind him, signaling them to step back as well, and said unhurriedly. He. Cat boss smiled dangerously, a chilling light flashing in his eerie green eyes. He didn't respond, but quietly waited for Mickey to continue. Seeing his expression, Mickey knew that this guy was really angry. If they didn't get down to business, they might really start fighting. Then I'll make it short. You take your men to attract Wang Lin's attention, and I'll take my men to steal the thing. We'll split it evenly. Mickey stated his plan word by word. Cat boss listened with his eyes narrowed almost the entire time. When Mickey stopped, he licked his paw meaningfully. That sounds good, but what if you secretly take the thing for yourself? You want me to attract Wang Lin's attention, aren't you just trying to use me as cannon fodder? Cat boss stared intently at Mickey, waiting for his explanation. His claws scratched against the floor, as if he was about to strike at any moment. What else can we do? I could attract Wang Lin and them, but do you have a way to steal the thing? Don't forget, dogs can smell you cats from hundreds of meters away. Mickey said, pretending to be helpless. In fact, he secretly hoped that these stupid cats would fight with those dumb dogs, so that he could reap the benefits. But he still had to put on a good show, since he had to play the part completely. Seeing that Cat Boss was still pondering, Wang Chili became a little impatient. He went to Cat Boss again and led him aside. After the two whispered for a while, Cat Boss turned around. I can take the lead, but you have to give me a guarantee. You put 1,000 evolution points with me, and I'll return them to you after we succeed. 1,000 points. Are you trying to rob me? Mickey roared in anger. Rats aren't like those ground animals, they can't collect a lot of evolution points every day. They have to work hard every night, secretly hunting other animals to get their evolution points. 1,000 points is not a small amount for them. I don't care. If you secretly take that egg, who can I complain to? Cat Boss ignored Mickey's anger and said unhurriedly. What if I don't agree? Mickey stared at Cat Boss with his marble-sized eyes, unwillingly. Then I'm sorry, I don't think there's any need for us to cooperate. With that, the Cat Boss turned to lead his followers out of the factory. Wait. I agree. Mickey gritted his teeth, having apparently made an incredibly difficult decision, and called out to the Cat Bosses retreating back. It couldn't be helped. Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
For the sake of that egg, he had to take this gamble. Besides, he still had a major ace up his sleeve. When the time came, he would get these evolution points back with interest. Humph. It would have been much simpler if you'd just done this from the start. The cat boss turned around, a triumphant smirk on his face.
Hurry up and hand them over. I don't want to stay in this hellhole any longer than I have to. Fine, they're yours. Grumpily, Mickey transferred 1,000 evolution points directly to the cat boss.
I hope our cooperation this time will be a complete success. With his tail held high, the cat boss led his followers and slowly walked towards the factory gate. Tearing his eyes away from the retreating cats with great reluctance, Mickey gritted his teeth in resentment before turning to lead his own underlings into the darkness.
The next morning, warm sunlight once again lit up the entire city. At the entrance to the Dragon's Nest headquarters. Stop right there. Cat boss. What business do you have coming to our Dragon's Nest territory? Are you trying to start a war with us? Qindao, baring his teeth, blocked the cat boss's path, stopping him in his tracks. Dragon's Nest? Ha ha ha.
That's hilarious.
Ha ha ha.
It's clearly a dog kennel, yet you dare call yourselves the Dragon's Nest.
How shameless.
Hearing Qindao's words, the cats behind the cat boss couldn't help but roar with laughter. Some even started rolling on the ground in hysterics.
Now this is interesting.
That Wang Lin picked up a dragon egg from who knows where, and now he thinks he can become a real dragon? The cat boss's face showed a human-like sneer, completely oblivious to Wang Qili and Qindao frantically exchanging meaningful looks. These mutts are unbelievably arrogant, daring to take such a presumptuous name.
Expecting a true dragon to emerge from a mongrel's den? What a pipe dream. Cut the crap. What do you want? That's right. We call you boss out of respect, so don't push it.
The cat boss's words seemed to have enraged the dogs behind Qindao.
One by one, they came forward to block the cat boss's path.
A great battle was on the verge of breaking out. Both sides glared at each other, wishing they could lunge forward and tear the other to pieces. Compared to the cat boss's side, which had turned out in full force, Qindao's dozen or so dogs seemed rather outnumbered and outmatched. But they didn't back down, choosing instead to stand their ground and confront the cat boss and his gang. Since Xiaolong became the leader, the animals in the Dragon's Nest, aside from having to hand over some evolution points every day, all lived very happily. And these dogs were all like city enforcers, their status even more respected than that of ordinary animals. Compared to ordinary animals, their lives could be described as incredibly comfortable. To protect this hard-won peace, they would absolutely not let this group of stupid cats advance another step. The fight hadn't started yet, but in terms of morale, the Dragon's Nest side clearly had a slight edge.
Oh whoa!
Seeing the cat leader about to make a move, Qindao suddenly let out a high-pitched howl. Immediately, the sound of dense, hurried footsteps came from all directions. Over 100 burly dogs appeared as if from nowhere, and before anyone realized it, they had completely surrounded the cat leader and his followers. A cane corso, surrounded by the pack of dogs, slowly came to stand behind Qindao. It was none other than the former leader of the vicious dog gang, Wang Lin.
Yo! Old Wang, you're quite something. Your ears are getting bigger and bigger, huh?
For your little brother to see you, I have to go through such a grand spectacle. The cat leader's eyes narrowed slightly as he scanned the dogs that had suddenly appeared, speaking with a hidden meaning.
Cut the hypocritical act. Did you really bring so many of your cronies today intending to start a war with me?
Wang Lin frowned, speaking with some displeasure.
At the same time, he couldn't help but inwardly click his tongue in amazement.
It had only been a few days, but this guy's size had grown another circle, just like himself.
He was probably just a step away from reaching maturity.
Before they became animalistic, dogs could easily crush cats, purely due to their size advantage. But now, he and the cat leader were about the same size. At the same size, a cat's reaction speed and agility were much greater than a dog's. When the fight started, he would probably be at a major disadvantage. However, after sneaking a discreet glance at Wang Qili, who was standing behind the cat leader, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief.
With this guy around, the pressure on him should be much lighter. Let's hope so. Start a war? You've hit the nail on the head. A sharp, cold glint suddenly erupted in the cat leader's eyes. His body arched in an exaggerated manner, and all the mottled fur on his body stood on end at this moment. My claws have been getting a little itchy lately. Why not kill a few stupid dogs to sharpen them? As soon as the cat leader's words fell, his body leaped into mid-air in an exaggerated motion, his pair of claws, glinting coldly, instantly locked onto a golden retriever that was closer to him. Put! The sharp claws instantly tore through the golden retriever's throat, and several gruesome claw marks appeared on its neck. Awah! Crimson blood spurted out. After letting out a miserable howl, the golden retriever crashed into a pool of its own blood. After struggling a few times, it completely lost all signs of life. Woof! You stupid cat! I'll kill you! The cat leader's brazen attack caught Wang Lin completely off guard. He never would have imagined that this guy's speed had already reached such a terrifying level. Even he hadn't reacted in time. But he couldn't be bothered with that now. After letting out a long howl to the sky, he shot out like a cannonball. The great battle was about to erupt. The two clashed in an instant, becoming a tangled mess of fighting. Before their animalization, they were both skilled martial artists, so for a time, they were surprisingly evenly matched. Although Wang Lin was clearly at a disadvantage, it wouldn't be a quick matter for him to be utterly defeated. Seeing their respective bosses engaged in battle, the underlings on both sides couldn't just stand by and watch. They all charged forward, and the two groups instantly erupted into a chaotic brawl. The war between cats and dogs erupted in full force at this moment. In front of the hotel that served as the Dragon's Nest headquarters, the scene was now one of utter chaos. Angry shouts, miserable screams, and the yowls and barks of cats and dogs filled the air. The two factions were now locked in a chaotic brawl. In the surrounding buildings, various herbivores hid in their homes, trembling with fear, not daring to even breathe too loudly. At this moment, they were all silently praying for the Dragon's Nest to emerge victorious in this great battle. Otherwise, the first to suffer would undoubtedly be them, the defenseless herbivores. Many of them had previously escaped to the Dragon's Nest from the territories of the cat boss and other animal factions. They knew the temperaments of these faction leaders all too well. If the Dragon's Nest were to lose, they would undoubtedly face endless exploitation and oppression once more, with no hope of ever seeing a better day. Although that was what they hoped for, the situation on the battlefield was not encouraging. Thanks to the cat boss's ruthless exploitation of the herbivores in his territory, his forces were clearly much stronger than those of the Dragon's Nest. In particular, the number of cats that had entered their growth phase was already significantly higher than in the Dragon's Nest. Although the two sides were still locked in a tight battle for the moment, the Dragon's Nest was clearly at a disadvantage. At this rate, defeat was only a matter of time. Meanwhile, in the warehouse where Xiaolong was. "See, boss. Wasn't I right?" Brother Wang took a step forward, pointing at Xiaolong and said excitedly. Rat King Mickey, leading a group of his rat minions, had successfully infiltrated the warehouse. His eyes blazed with fervor after spotting the egg on the table. He couldn't tear his gaze away. The more powerful an animal was, the more they could sense Xiaolong's extraordinary quality. "Get it! Quickly!" At that moment, it was as if an intensely alluring voice was echoing continuously in Mickey's mind. Greedy desire made Mickey's already scarlet eyes seem even more uncanny. As if he had lost his mind, he staggered towards Xiaolong. However, he had not taken more than 2 steps before he suddenly bit his tongue hard, forcing himself back to his senses. Because just as he approached the dragon egg, an intense sense of crisis suddenly flooded his heart. The aura of danger in that instant made him feel as if he had plunged into an icy abyss, as if he could hear the call of death from the very depths of hell. This egg. Something's not right. Huh? This fellow? How interesting. At that moment, Xiaolong, inside the dragon egg, was also taken aback by Mickey's bizarre behavior. Just now, he had wanted to take advantage of this fellow getting close to instantly kill him. But just as he locked onto the fellow's aura, he was seen through.
This guy is really hiding his true strength.
He's actually concealing his power. As expected of a cunning rat.
Xiaolong pondered for a moment, continuing to watch Mickey with his divine sense.
So, what will you do next? He was a little curious about this fellow.
The mere fact that he could detect Xiaolong's aura just now was enough to prove that this guy's strength was definitely greater than Wang Lin's and the cat boss's.
And not just by a little bit, but a crushing difference. You. And you. You lot. Go move the egg down from the table. Be careful not to break it.
Taking a deep breath, his heart still pounding with fear, Mickey looked at the few rat underlings beside him and instructed them.
Got it, boss, don't worry. No problem. These rats had only just entered their growth stage and didn't feel the dangerous aura from a moment ago at all. They thought Mickey had given them a cushy job, so they scurried out eagerly.
But just as they were about to climb onto the table, something unexpected happened.
Dragon's Wrath.
A fiery red six-pointed star array instantly formed, and orange-red flames carrying terrifyingly high temperatures spewed forth.
The scorching heat wave, like a landslide in tsunami, swept through the entire warehouse in the blink of an eye.
The few rats near Xiaolong didn't even have time to scream before they completely vanished in the orange-red flames, not even a speck of ash remaining.
This horrifying scene thoroughly terrified every rat present.
The cowardice hidden deep within their rat genes made them want to flee this living hell immediately. But before they could take 2 steps, another change occurred.
Boom!
A heaven-shaking, earth-shattering, supreme pressure suddenly descended from above.
It crashed down upon them.
All the rats, including Mickey, instinctively fell to the ground with a thud, unable to move a muscle.
Cold sweat poured out uncontrollably.
This sudden, immense pressure was like Mount Tai crashing down on them, making it impossible for them to breathe.
Ha ha ha! The boss is mighty. Boss, you're awesome.
Serves these stinking rats right for trying a sneak attack in the middle of the night.
Now we'll teach these guys a good lesson. That's right.
The boss is still the cleverest. These stinking rats really fell for it.
After the pressure descended, the warehouse doors were quickly pushed open.
Lu Chang and Han Shichi led a dozen dogs straight in.
A moment later. You? What in the world are you?
Feeling the pressure on him lighten slightly, Mickey raised his head and looked at Xiaolong in disbelief.
Ha, don't you already know? I'm a dragon egg.
From within the eggshell came Xiaolong's incomparably majestic voice. At this moment, he was already sitting on Han Shichi's back, looking down on him from above.
What?
No wonder the vicious dog gang suddenly changed its name to the Dragon's Nest. A few days ago, he had heard that the vicious dog gang suddenly changed its name to the Dragon's Nest. At the time, he didn't think much of it and even mocked them for a good while. But now, he finally understood why. No wonder this bunch of dumb dogs dared to change their name. It turned out they had a new master.
So, does that mean the vicious dog gang is now in your hands?
After a moment of contemplation with his head lowered, Mickey spoke with a sense of dejection. The power Xiaolong had just displayed was enough to completely crush them. How could a lowlife like Wang Lin possibly subdue such a powerful being? Besides, he had just heard Han Shichi and the others call him boss.
What vicious dog gang? We're members of the Dragon's Nest now. Oh, no! The dogs of the Dragon's Nest. If you keep talking nonsense, I'll tear you to shreds. Hearing Mickey's words, Lu Chang the bully dog was instantly displeased and began to clamor. Whatever you say. Since I've fallen into your hands, I admit defeat. Kill me or cut me up, I'm at your mercy.
Mickey closed his eyes, his heart filled with ashes of despair, and spoke as if all hope was lost. After speaking, he simply fell backward, lying on the ground on his back like a dead rat with its legs in the air.
The dogs?
Nothing had even really happened yet, and this guy was already playing the victim. After a moment of speechlessness, the dogs all turned their gaze to Xiaolong on Han Shichi's back. After all, Xiaolong was their backbone now. What to do with this guy was all up to his word.
Mickey, is it? There are 2 paths before you to choose from. Xiaolong's incredibly majestic voice once again came from the dragon egg. First, like those few rats just now, not even a speck will be left of you. After a pause, he spoke again. Second. I choose the second one.
Lying on the ground, Mickey, upon hearing Xiaolong utter the word second, performed an exaggerated carp flip and sprang up from the ground, speaking without a hint of hesitation. This comical scene was witnessed by Brother Wang and his rat underlings, whose jaws nearly dropped to the floor in astonishment. Was this still the ruthless, bloodthirsty, and cruel Rat King Mickey they knew? How had his persona collapsed so completely? As for Han Shichi and the others, they all had looks of dog-like astonishment, their faces filled with disbelief. If Xiaolong hadn't been there and the situation hadn't been so inappropriate for laughter, they would have been rolling on the floor with mirth. Oh? Are you sure? You agree without even hearing what I want you to do? Xiaolong's majestic voice came once more. But this time, the rats and dogs present could clearly sense a strange quality in Xiaolong's voice. He seemed to be suppressing something with great effort. Inside the dragon egg, Xiaolong's face had almost turned red from holding back his laughter. Who would have thought that the dignified Rat King would have such a comical side? However, it did suit his name quite well. Mickey. Whenever he thought of the name, the image of a charmingly naive black mouse would inevitably pop into his head. Red shorts. Yellow shoes. However, the possibility that this guy was just acting couldn't be ruled out. But if he really was acting, then this guy was truly terrifying. He was adaptable and resilient, and also incredibly calculating. He had hidden his true strength until now, and besides Xiaolong, Wang Lin and Cat Boss had no clue. Aside from being a bit ugly, this guy was actually a useful talent. Just tell me what you want me to do. If I can avoid death, who would willingly choose it? Mickey said, his voice full of resignation. As the old saying goes, a miserable life is better than a good death. After witnessing Xiaolong's terrifying power firsthand, he understood that he had absolutely no chance of defeating him. Although he had held back some of his strength, it was only in the realm of martial arts and hand-to-hand combat. But Xiaolong, he used sorcery. Making a martial artist fight an immortal cultivator. That was really asking too much of a mouse. So, he could only choose to lie down and accept his fate. You're quite sharp. That's right. I do need some scouts to gather intelligence for me from outside this city. However, if you want to work for me, you'll have to prove your loyalty first. After all, you are cunning rats. Xiaolong said unhurriedly. This guy was smart. He had seen right through his intentions. That's right. He did indeed want to bring Mickey under his control and use him. With the advent of the animalization, all of humanity's previous communication devices had failed. The information he could gather was now limited to just the small city of Jiangxia. As for what the world outside had become, which factions had risen, what kind of powerful animals had appeared, he was completely in the dark about all this information, knowing nothing at all. Since he had already decided to walk the path of an overlord, he had to find a way to obtain this information. And right now, Mickey and his underlings were undoubtedly the best choice for the job. The small size of the rats would allow them to sneak into other animal territories undetected to gather intelligence. And their strong adaptability would allow them to survive in all sorts of extreme and harsh environments. On top of that, there was their incredible reproductive rate, and more. Now that they possessed human intelligence, they were practically born to be intelligence agents. How do you want me to prove it? Upon hearing Xiaolong's words, Mickey, whose heart had been like dead ashes, was instantly revived, as if he had become the Rat King of before once again. Well, with your cleverness, I'm sure you've already figured it out. Xiaolong said playfully, unable to resist testing the guy to see just how sharp he was. I'll go kill Cat Boss. As a pledge of my loyalty to you. How about that? Mickey lowered his head and thought for a moment, then suddenly looked up and spoke with excitement. He had partnered with Cat Boss to steal the dragon eggs. The two of them were currently collaborators. If he went and killed Cat Boss right now, that should be enough to prove his loyalty. That could work. But you'd better be quick.
Xia Long was quite satisfied with Mickey's answer. He hadn't forgotten that old Wan was still undercover on Cat Boss's side. The fight over there must be incredibly intense right now. Sending Mickey to save the day now couldn't be more perfect. No problem. I'll be back in 3 minutes.
Having received Xia Long's approval, Mickey turned and shot out of the warehouse as a black shadow. In the blink of an eye, he was gone. His speed was astonishing.
Meanwhile, at the entrance of the Dragon's Nest headquarters.
Ah, Brother Wang, just stop resisting. Wouldn't it be easier to just lie down and die? Cat Boss was clearly in a bloodthirsty frenzy, having completely forgotten that he was supposed to be working with Mickey to steal the dragon eggs. All they were supposed to do was stall for time. There was no need to fight to the death like this. But once the fight truly began, how could he be bothered with any of that? Seeing that Wang Lin was on the verge of defeat, he now had only one thought in his mind.
Take down the Dragon's Nest in one fell swoop, and then go wipe out that pack of stinking rats.
He and Wang Lin had fought a great battle, and both were covered in horrific wounds, but overall, Wang Lin was in worse shape. On Wang Lin's back was a ghastly wound so deep the bone was visible, a mangled mess of flesh and blood. If this keeps up, all your brothers are going to be wiped out. Just accept your death. Maybe I'll even spare these brothers of yours. Cat Boss wiped his blood-stained paws and said with utter disdain.
Shut your mouth, you stupid cat. You'll get what's coming to you soon enough. Wang Lin roared, grimacing as he endured the intense pain.
But at the same time, he glanced over at Wang Qili, who was locked in a heated battle with a husky.
Is that bastard putting on a show for me? He was supposed to turn the tide at the critical moment. Why hasn't he done anything?
Meanwhile, Wang Qili, who was having the time of his life fighting the husky, had his own unspoken frustrations. According to the original plan, he was supposed to ambush Cat Boss and, in coordination with Wang Lin, kill him in a single strike. But he never imagined that Cat Boss, that reckless brute, would charge in so impulsively right from the start. The two sides had barely exchanged a few words before descending into a chaotic brawl. For his sneak attack to have any chance of success, he had to be close to Cat Boss and strike when his guard was down. But now, with the situation in this state, his turtle-like speed meant he couldn't keep up with Cat Boss's pace at all.
Don't tell me. I really have to use that. Wang Qili thought, feeling reluctant.
But at this point, besides using that move, he had no better option. With a heavy heart, he made his decision. Before setting off that day, Xia Long sealed 3 layers of heavenly thunder protection within him to ensure everything went perfectly. He could activate them with a single thought. However, since he didn't possess the bloodline of a dragon, using the heavenly thunder protection would come at a heavy price. Therefore, before leaving, Xia Long repeatedly warned him not to use it rashly unless absolutely necessary. He still vividly remembered the scene when Xia Long first used heavenly thunder protection in the village. Back then, the entire village committee courtyard was completely razed to the ground by the violent thunder that descended from the sky. What he needed to do now was to distract the cats as much as possible and keep the group of silly dogs away from him. Otherwise, if a heavenly thunder protection were to strike, probably none of the animals present except him would survive. This was an indiscriminate area of effect attack. But just as he was about to speak, a rapidly approaching black figure in the distance attracted the attention of all the animals. The black figure was like a black arrow, moving as fast as lightning. In just a moment, it darted into the battlefield. When it stopped, the cats and dogs present could finally see what it was. It was actually a rat, with a size comparable to that of the Cat Boss and Wang Lin. This sudden change caused all the to stop fighting, staring at it in disbelief. Has this rat become a spirit? This is too exaggerated. Ha ha ha. It's you, Mickey. Well done. This is truly heaven helping me. After clearly seeing the rat's appearance, the Cat Boss immediately recognized Mickey. Although he didn't know how it suddenly became so big, he didn't have time to ask so much now. He just wanted to join forces with Mickey and wipe out this group of silly dogs. Since you're here, then the dragon egg should be in your hands, we. Ah. But he only managed to say half a sentence when he suddenly let out a miserable scream. Mickey, who was standing in front of him, bit his neck without any warning. It all happened in the blink of an eye, so fast that even he couldn't react. Thud! Sharp rat teeth instantly pierced his throat. The cat boss's pupils suddenly contracted, his eyes filled with disbelief. After a moment, Mickey released his mouth, and the cat boss fell to the ground with a thud, the light of life in his eyes long gone. The cat boss is dead. All you stupid cats, give up resisting. Otherwise, you'll end up like him. After a successful strike, Mickey dropped a sentence and dragged the cat boss's body away again. The remaining cats were frightened out of their wits and instantly lost all will to fight. With the cat boss dead, Wang Lin became the highest combat power on the scene. Under his command, the cats were quickly subdued completely. "Boss, do you think that stinky rat ran away?" After Mickey left, Lu Cheng cautiously asked. He really couldn't bring himself to trust a rat after all, they were just too cunning. It wasn't out of the question that Mickey, in a moment of ruthlessness, would abandon his underlings and just bolt. They called each other brothers, but when it came down to life and death, who could really care about all that? Every man for himself when disaster strikes wasn't just a saying. Exactly, boss. You should have let me bite him to death just now. Those guys are despicable. Han Shichi glared menacingly at the rats cowering on the ground and said viciously, "Don't be hasty. He can't escape the palm of my hand." The reason Xia Long dared to let Mickey go just like that was, of course, because he had a plan. In his spare time over the past few days, he had thoroughly studied all the talents he currently possessed. This included the heavenly thunder aegis sealed within Wang Chi's body, for which he had discovered a new use. As for Dragon's Wrath, he had found an even more overpowered way to use it. As long as he locked onto a creature's aura before releasing Dragon's Wrath, the targeted being wouldn't be able to escape his attack range for a certain period of time. Dragon's Wrath would automatically track the target, leaving them with absolutely nowhere to hide. But he hadn't hatched yet, so the duration and range of the lock-on were limited. He could only lock onto an aura for 10 minutes, and the tracking range of Dragon's Wrath was only a 10-kilometer diameter. Still, that was more than enough. Just now in the warehouse, he had already locked onto Mickey's aura. If Mickey didn't return within 3 minutes, or if he sensed that Mickey was about to leave the tracking range of Dragon's Wrath, he would unleash it without hesitation. Clang! Just as he was wondering whether Mickey would actually run, the warehouse doors were violently thrown open. Dragging the cat boss's corpse, Mickey burst straight in and threw the body onto the warehouse's scorched floor. "Boss, is this acceptable?" After dropping the cat boss's body, Mickey's own body suddenly shrank. Reverting to his original size, he prostrated himself before Xiao Long and said in a weak voice. To complete the mission just now, he had gone all out, using his full strength. Such an exaggerated transformation had taken its toll, even on him. Good work. What's the situation over there? Xiao Long's voice slowly drifted over, his first words being a question about the situation. He hadn't heard any thunder just now, which meant old Wang shouldn't have used the heavenly thunder aegis yet. Don't worry, boss. The cat boss is dead. Those stupid cats won't be able to stir up any trouble. A fawning smile appeared on Mickey's face as he spoke in an obsequious tone. This guy sure changed his tune quickly. In that case. Bow your head and submit. Roar. A high-pitched dragon's cry suddenly exploded in Mickey's mind. His vision went black, and he lost consciousness. The dragon's soul contract talent activated. Seeing Mickey suddenly collapse, the rats cowering on the ground shuddered violently. Our boss. Is he finished?